So, chat, we are doing a presentation about Wojtek the bear. I titled it Into the Iceberg because one of the entries of my upcoming Polish Lore Iceberg video is a video talking about, or is an entry talking about Wojtek the bear. But the, what's it called? The entry was brief because it's an iceberg video, so it's not the whole or like focus of the video. I was doing research and I found the story super interesting. I mean, I knew brief things about it, but I found the whole story super interesting, so I decided, why not make a presentation about it, right? See if you guys enjoy that. So background. The setting is Poland. Background is not the setting of what's actually going on, right? On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland from the west. Then, 16 days later, on the 17th of September in 1939, the Soviets decided, fuck it, let's decide to play around with Poland as well, and they invaded Poland from the east. The Poles fought both sides, but were overwhelmed and were basically overtaken on either side by both the Soviet Union and Germany. So under Soviet occupation, around 1.5 million Poles are deported. Now, these Poles are not all soldiers, they're not all in the military. Some of them are policemen, some of them are in government, some of them are just farmers, some of, you know, it's a bunch of different classes of people. They did not discriminate in their deportation. Who is this handsome gentleman? On June 1941, the Germans who invaded Western Poland suddenly turned against the Soviets. My understanding, it was Poland. And so now the USSR, who originally was the Soviets that invaded the East, they were like, oh fuck, I guess we're allied with the British now. My enemy's enemy is my friend. And on top of that, they allied with the exiled Polish government staying in London, in the UK. So this handsome guy, General Anders, he's a former Polish prisoner himself. He ended up forming a new Polish army on Soviet territory. So he asked them for permission. They're like, yeah, sure, no problem, bro. So, the way is a picture of the new Polish army. So due to horrendous conditions, General Anders negotiated the migration of his troops outside of the USSR. Because in the USSR, it was just, you know, they were just not doing well at all, man. Like they were fucking miserable. They were in gulags, they had shit food, it was just not the best condition at all for them. So he was like, yo, can we get the fuck out of the USSR, please? You know, I'm not liking this. So, about 100,000 Poles were evacuated to Ally-controlled Persia, which is now modern-day Iran, right? These Poles, they're like, oh, we're gonna have a better life, hee-hee, yippee, you know. Within this 100K, there was a group of Polish soldiers belonging to the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, which was that supply company was of what was known as the Polish Second Corps. Shit, we have to... Let's keep going. And this, the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, is where and with who our story of Wojtek starts. So, little Wojtek. The year is 1942. The 22nd Artillery Supply Company are still in Persia. A Persian boy, little Persian boy, he's wandering. Wandering means like, not wandering like, wandering. He's like walking around, you know. He's like near the city of Hamadan. And in a little bag that he's carrying, there's a little Syrian brown bear cub with him. A tiny, tiny little baby bear. Two guys from the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, Henryk Zachorski and Lieutenant Anatol Tarnowiecki, go up to this boy, you know, they talk to the boy, and they're like, yo, what will it take for us to get this bear from you? This little cutie pie bear. They negotiate a little bit. They're like, bleep, 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 bleep. I have supplies. We can give you a cool Swiss Army knife. We can give you cans of food, I think. You know, just a bunch of little stuff. They bartered. They traded. And eventually the boy was like, all right, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. And I'll take what you've offered me. So, this little baby boy over here, this is him. And these are the lads that adopted him. Or part of the lads that adopted him. And here you can see little baby Wojtek still growing big and strong with the help of the Poles, the Polish soldiers, in, I guess this would be Persia, right? So the little brown bear cub is given the name Wojtek by his adopters. Now, for all the Poles watching, I'm sure you already know this, but just in case, Wojtek means joyful warrior or happy warrior. You know, it's I think it's a very fitting name for, I guess, a little bear that's in the army, right? He's cutie patootie. So the soldiers take on the responsibility of becoming his caretakers, this little cutie pie bear. And Wojtek is spoiled, you know, everything he could ever need or want as a growing little Syrian brown bear. He gets everything he needs because the entire company falls in love with him. You know, the caretakers, they are enamored with this little cutie pie. He's like a little baby. Their morale is raised. You know, you have to keep in mind, these people came from shit conditions. You know, they came from horrendous conditions in the USSR. They were just not having it, you know, and they were in the fucking like desert in the heat, training, and it was miserable, and they were just so happy to have a little cutie patootie to raise their morale and to take care of, right? It's like a little Tamagotchi. That in a time of great hardship, Wojtek became a light in the dark for them. Growing Wojtek, see, you can see here, I love the little the way he sits is fucking adorable. So Wojtek continues to be cared for by his fellow men, growing more and more by the day. He's wrestling with them, he's swimming with them, they're teaching him tricks. He's just like all around just like one of the boys, you know. And then the company that he's a part of, the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, they end up having this whole sort of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure style journey where they travel through the Middle East. And they started in Persia, they were already in Persia, but their first destination for their travel is Iraq. So he was transported with the soldiers, just as the soldiers were, in a truck. And as he continued to spend time being raised by all these soldiers in the company, he grew and grew in popularity amongst his men. And this is him in the truck. Very cutie pie, very, very nice boy, you know. So the soldiers were moving through the Middle East in order to train and regain their footing after the horrible, grueling life that they experienced in the USSR. And the whole point, this whole like trip through the Middle East, basically like an anime like training arc for them. You know what I mean? They were just like learning how to like crazy shit, and they were improving their powers and stuff like that. You know, imagine this like an anime training arc, right? So as the soldiers were training, Wojtek was training as well. He grew into a big boy, training with them as well, and acclimating to his family of military men. He was really getting used to this military man life, you know. He was a fucking soldier, this guy. He was growing, he was just real group of part of the boys, you know. The soldiers and Wojtek had a long journey ahead in the Middle East. This training arc was not a one-stop shop for them. It was multiple destinations, multiple training arcs. Got for real, like Dylan is saying, he got the Kung Fu Panda treatment. So this is the beginning of the journey in the Middle East. As you can see, the ladies liked him too. So starting in Iraq, they all head to Palestine, which was under British control at the time. Now, there in Palestine, the soldiers received new uniforms, new equipment, and more training in preparation for combat. So They were just getting like everything that they needed to rejuvenate and prepare for the coming fights that they would have to get involved in. And Wojtek became a celebrity, you know. He was playing with the soldiers and the ladies, as you can see. He was learning new tricks, and he was even going to the beach and stuff like that. And fun fact, he started eating cigarettes and drinking beer. He was not smoking them, he was eating them. Now, I can't condone this behavior because I'm sure it's not healthy, but, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, you know. I'm sure at the time they had more concerns than his health, although it is an important thing, of course. Fun fact also, my personal headcanon for why Wojtek got a taste for alcohol was because when the soldiers, Mr. Henrik and Anatoly, when they first adopted him and he was a little baby cub that was an orphan, they were feeding him milk through an empty vodka bottle. Now, what I assume happened was there was a little tiny drop of vodka in it still, and he just got a taste for alcohol, and it like became like, you know, his thing. Also, I'm sure being around a bunch of Polish people in the 1940s did not help with his cigarette and alcohol addiction. So here you can see the soldiers are loving him, man. He's loving the soldiers too. So early to mid 1943, Wojtek's unit went from Palestine to my home country of Lebanon. They were both in my home city of Beirut and Baghdad. So this Polish bear, bro, he's okay. He joined the Polish army, and he traveled around with them. Wojtek is basically. So what was he getting up to in Lebanon? Like, isn't that crazy? What a coinky dink, bro, that he went to Lebanon. So the unit that he was part of received mountain training as well as rest in Lebanon. And the conditions in Lebanon, especially at the time, were fantastic. You know, they had good food, they had a nice fresh climate. There was just like a great vibe in general for the bear and for the soldiers too, you know. So in mid to late 1943, the Poles, and now a fully grown man, Wojtek, continued to Syria, to Homs and Aleppo. In Syria, the Poles received an order, and this order was telling them to go to Egypt. What was in Egypt? You know, just like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, what was in Egypt? They basically had to prepare and set sail from Egypt to Italy for an Italian campaign. So the Poles were preparing to fight the Germans in Italy, and the fully grown Wojtek was getting ready just as the Poles were. So throughout this whole training arc that he had in the Middle East, it came to be that they were actually training to go to Italy and fight some Germans. So the last stop. In late 1943, the Poles and Wojtek finally arrived in Egypt, and they assembled near the Suez Canal. For those who don't know, or for those who may not remember, the Suez Canal is this little canal that they dug in Egypt, a man-made canal. This was the one that got blocked up in by the ship that caused this whole disaster. I think in like 2023 or something, if I'm not mistaken. So in Egypt, preparing for what they now knew was coming, the soldiers trained for amphibious transport, which is a fancy way of saying transport in different conditions, right? And Wojtek, okay, he was not a joke, you know? This guy became officially registered as a private in the Polish army because there was issues with transportation of a bear. You know, they didn't have the right documentation. They didn't really, like, it was pretty tough. It was like a pain in the ass to transport a bear. Regardless of how much they loved him, they needed proper documentation. So what did these guys decide to do? They registered him as a fucking private in the Polish army and took him with them. this absolute fucking unit, Private Wojtek, the beer-drinking, cigarette-eating bear soldier of the Polish army in the 22nd Artillery Supply Company in World War II. Now, I remember someone mentioned, Dylan I think, mentioned that he'd shit himself if he was a German boy and saw a fucking bear on the other side. Look at this guy. Look at this fucking unit. Hell yeah. He's massive, bro. So in December of 1943, Wojtek and his fellow Polish soldiers arrived in Italy in order to fuck up some Nazis, to fight against some Germans, man. So at this point, Wojtek was fully grown. He was a full-grown fucking soldier. He had a uniform, he had a rapport with his fellow soldiers, and a big appetite for beer and cigarettes. This guy was no fucking joke. He was ready to kick some ass in Italy, bro. Wojtek was a fucking unit, bro. The guy was 500 kilos, bro. 500 kilos and 200 centimeters, like almost 200 centimeters. 500 kilos is in pounds, I think like 250 pounds. And he was like about way more than 6 feet tall. The guy was a unit. So this is the Battle of Monte Cassino. So Wojtek, of course, was a part of the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, which had the job of assisting by transporting ammunition to the front lines during battle. So for those who don't know, this is the whole task of the Artillery Supply Company is to literally to transport ammunition to front lines, to make sure that the soldiers fighting in the front lines were, well taken care of, and just did not have issues with ammunition. So in Monte Cassino, the Poles took part in the fourth and final battle against the Germans, which eventually led to victory and German retreat. So before the Poles and Wojtek showed up, it was the British and the Indians against the Germans and the Italians as well. There were 3 battles that all ended in defeat before the Poles and Wojtek showed up. And finally, with Wojtek's assistance and, of course, the Polish assistance in the battle, the Germans finally retreated and there was victory against them. Wojtek played a big fucking role in helping his company, which was part of the Polish Second Corps. So, in the Battle of Monte Cassino, look at this fucking unit, bro. Look at how massive he is, bro. Holy shit, bro. Holy shit. Look at how massive this guy is. So, with fucking, like, bro, imagine this is like Battlefield, fucking Call of Duty, bro. With explosions, fucking shell blasts going off all around him, bro. Like, ba, 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 ba. Wojtek bravely carried heavy crates of ammunition, okay? Normally, this takes multiple people to carry. Wojtek did this shit all on his own. He just saw the soldiers doing this shit, and he was like, oh shit, let me help them. This is what they're doing. I'm one of them, I'm a fucking private. I'm gonna help them. The guy was carrying fucking 40 kilo, I think, fucking crates of artillery that usually would take like 2-4 people to carry. He was doing this shit on his own. He just saw them doing it, and he was like, oh fuck, okay, I guess I'm gonna help out. So it was later said by his fucking fellow comrades that Wojtek never even dropped a single shell. The guy was the real fucking deal. He was a fucking menace, bro. So Corporal Wojtek, so in honor of his great service to the Poles and his fellow soldiers alike, the 22nd Artillery Supply Company adopted a new emblem with his heroic effort represented on it. As you can see, it was the official emblem of this company after this battle, with Wojtek depicted carrying artillery. And Wojtek also officially got promoted to the rank of corporal. This guy was not fucking playing around. So in the Allied armies, Wojtek became a symbol of bravery and hope in the struggle against the Germans. There's also some stuff that I didn't mention. Like, for example, they were at some point during the training arc in the Middle East, Wojtek was able to apprehend a fucking spy in an Arab bathhouse. So while the soldiers were bathing in a bathhouse, Wojtek fucking sniffed out a spy and apprehended him and brought them like to the Poles, and he was like, yo, this guy was like spying on you. So Wojtek's retirement. This is a little sad, in my opinion. This made me very sad. So after the war ended in 1947, Wojtek had to move to the Edinburgh Zoo in Scotland due to the fact that no one was legally able to care for him after the soldiers disbanded. So there were two options. The first option was either to euthanize him on the spot or to send him to the zoo in Scotland, the Edinburgh Zoo in Scotland. And you can see, like, he was sitting there waiting in the zoo. He was waiting for his next battle that never came, unfortunately. He was, of course, visited by his former comrades in the war, who came to him, visited him, and would reminisce with him about good old days, sometimes feeding him cigarettes, giving him some beer. Soldiers would give him like the commands. He would salute. You know, he was really, I'm sure, very, very beyond ecstatic to see his old comrades. And this was a bittersweet thing, but fortunately, at least, it was the lesser of two evils. So, Wojtek's legacy. Eventually, Wojtek ended up passing away in captivity at the ripe old age of 22 in the zoo in Edinburgh. He unfortunately, as he grew with age, he became sick and eventually had to be euthanized for his own sake. He was cremated, and a statue of him was built. So he was remembered for heroism and morale boosting in the war to his comrades, and he is permanently commemorated by a statue which was erected in his honor and image in 2015 in the Princess Street's Garden of Edinburgh. And the guy, I mean, like, look at how fucking adorable he is, you know? You can see this corrosion in the statue because so many people would go up to him and rub his nose because he was such a good boy. So the inscription here for his statue states, "In memory of the Polish men and women who fought for your freedom and ours. The end. Rest in peace, Wojtek. We salute you." Yes. So, this was the story of Wojtek. Rest in peace. Such an adorable little fucking guy that truly was not a pet, you know. He was a fucking, eventually became a corporal. He was the real deal. He traveled like, he went through a training arc with soldiers and fucking punched Nazis in the face, bro. Like how I'm sure the Poles are so proud of the fact that they had him on their side, you know. He was such a cutie pie.